Do you know about the man who hijacked an airplane using a samurai sword?
No.
So I saw a video by Kento Bento, and when you think of an airplane hijacking, you think it'd be like almost impossible to do, right? With like metal detectors and security. This story is so crazy and has the craziest twist.
Why'd they hijack the plane?
So this happened on Japan Flight 351, and it was a flight from Tokyo, Japan to Fukuoka, Japan. On the airplane, there was 122 passengers, and there was a bunch of college students, like businessmen, tourists. The CEO of Pepsi and the Roman Catholic priest from the United States were also on the flight.
Okay.
So an hour before the plane was about to land, one of the college students walked up to the front of the plane and told everyone that he's hijacking the plane, and he threatened to kill everyone.
What?
His name was Takumaru Tamiya, and he pulled out a samurai sword out of his coat, and all the passengers went crazy. Tamiya also had partners on the plane that came to help him.
They were college students?
Yeah, the youngest member was only 16 years old, but this story gets crazy. So Tamiya and his men started to try to break down the cockpit doors so they could get to the pilots, and Tamiya had his men tie down all the male passengers on the plane so that no one could fight back. Once Tamiya got into the cockpit, he told the pilots that they have to fly to Cuba because Tamiya was a part of a communist cult, and he wanted North Korea and Cuba to respect him, and he also wanted military training. Basically, he wanted to start a war.
Dude, that's scary.
Tamiya and his 9 men were willing to die for their plan, and they were willing to kill all the passengers on the plane. The pilots told Tamiya that they were running out of fuel before they could get to Cuba, so they had to land in Fukuoka, Japan. The Japanese government and the US government tried to negotiate with Tamiya to get all the passengers off the plane like safely. Tamiya said that he would only let 23 passengers go in exchange for fuel for the plane. So the government agreed to give him fuel in exchange for the 23 passengers. But keep in mind, there's still like 100 passengers on the plane.
So what happens to the ones that didn't get off?
It gets pretty crazy, and Tamiya realized that Cuba was too far of a flight, so he decided to find the nearest communist country, which was North Korea. So the Japanese government gave the pilots like a hand-drawn map of North Korea because the pilots had never gone there. But this story has the craziest twist.
Yeah, no one's even allowed there.
So they fueled up the plane and took off to North Korea, but you gotta remember, there's still over 100 innocent lives on the plane, and the passengers knew if they got to North Korea would probably kill them because they're a communist country.
So what did they do?
So when they got to North Korea, all of a sudden these military jets came out of the sky and started shooting at them. And the pilots had no idea what was going on because they've never been in North Korea before. All the pilots had was just like a little hand-drawn map, and they had no idea what was going on. But Tamiya was not scared. He told the pilots, keep flying towards North Korea. And then all of a sudden the jets stopped shooting at them, and they radioed to the airplane and said, Tamiya, you can land in North Korea.
What?
So when the plane landed in North Korea, there were a bunch of people there to greet them. There were like military workers, soldiers, civilians, even a choir was there to greet them. They were all holding like welcome signs, and it looked like the North Korean people were really happy that they were there. Tamiya and his men were so happy to be in North Korea, but the passengers on the plane were so scared because they know they're about to be killed. The North Korean soldier greeted Tamiya and his men and let them leave the plane. But this story has the craziest Uno reverse card moment ever.
How do you get out of this?
So you see, the Japanese government and the US government had a plan all along. They knew that Tamiya was not going to give up the passengers until he got what he wanted. So they made Tamiya and his men think they landed in North Korea, but really they landed in South Korea. The Japanese government hired fake military jets to shoot fake bullets at the plane, and even hired fake actors to pretend like they're North Korean soldiers. And they even hired actors to be fake North Korean civilians. They even changed all the flags and all the posters to make it look like North Korea.
Wait, how did they get the pilots to fly to South Korea instead?
You see, back when the Japanese government gave the pilots that small little map of North Korea, there was a small little note on it with directions on what to do. So in the end, Tamiya and his men all got arrested, but all the passengers were set free and everyone was safe.
Okay, I'm still wondering how he got the samurai sword on the plane.